Fast forward, you come our channel so say GH Politics Avenue. Podcast or share training because big headlines. And your jump near the be exum or honey dibney home braximonia. Best rock say young queen simu. Ye queen simu. Case no. Ningina and it say a year attaching. Obekaya or more work out from court no. Ho sensem ababa ye be exum or haxi. Na kamia ko say as a oye asia contempt of court. Yamong run sibling, near court and about AGH Politics Avenue.
Legal team thought that their position was not being agreed with by the judge. For that reason, they walked out. Why?
Right, Martin. So, Samuel Akyea today, even before the business of the day could continue, notify the court that there had been new developments in that they had filed an application for prohibition at the Supreme Court. Now, this application is basically meant to prohibit the presiding judge who has been hearing the matter, Justice Eugene Nidu Nyante, from continuing to hear the case. Now, their reason was that he has been biased towards them since the hearing of the case. Now, after notifying the court about this application, he prayed for, he cited some authorities and indicated that because of the kind of application that he had filed at the Supreme Court, it meant that automatically there should be a stay of proceedings and then an adjournment. But then the principal state attorney, or the prosecution led by principal state attorney, Incidenta, rebutted and opposed this submission. He indicated that the mere fact that an application of this matter had been filed at the Supreme Court does not warrant an automatic adjournment. Now, she indicated that this trial particularly is a criminal trial, and the authorities that lawyer Akyea had cited had to do with another matter altogether, and so they can't be lumped together for this. But Akyea still maintained on that stance. Now, in the end, the presiding judge sided with the prosecution and held that the fact that an application like this is pending at the Supreme Court, it didn't warrant an adjournment in the matter. And so he dismissed that adjournment and then proceeded to call the prosecution's second witness, who is the Director of Finance at the National Signals Bureau, who was supposed to give her evidence in chief. Now, Martin, a bit of background to this. At the last adjourned date, the Director of Finance at the National Signals Bureau submitted some receipts during her evidence in chief. Now, these receipts had to do with the expenditure that Kwame Dubois during his tenure as the National Signals Bureau Director expended, really. So, Akyea objected to that list of transactions or receipts which was going to be tendered, in indicating that they were prejudicial. The fact that it has to do with the National Signals Bureau, it meant that it would affect the security of the country, for which reason he wanted those documents not to be turned into as evidence. And then the prosecution, then led by the Deputy Attorney General, who, by the way, today in court was absent, indicated that it is not in the place of a private citizen to indicate which documentation in court is prejudicial or will affect the security of the nation. That mandate or power lies in the bosom of the executive and, by extension, the government. And then the judge agreed with that. And so that objection was overruled. And then the matter continued. This is one of such instances that lawyer Akyea has been relying on, indicating that since the case began, there's a term that he likes to use. He says the judge is on an ambulance mode. He just wants the case to be expedited and moved on at the detriment of his clients without them necessarily making the case. And so he went to the Supreme Court to file an application to prohibit the justice or the judge to continue to hear this matter. He spoke to us after this. He was still not pleased about the entire thing. But Martin, even after this was done, because he walked out of the court premises, the accused persons, Kwame Dubois and his spouse, Angela J. Boateng, they were still in court. And because the matter had been dismissed and then the hearing was continuing, meaning that the second accused was going to continue with the testimony, the judge ordered the accused person, Kwabena Dubahin, to defend him, to call his lawyer back, or meant that you stand on his own as his own lawyer. Now, at that point, the court went on a brief recess, and when they came back, Kwabena Dubahin indicated that indeed he hadn't been able to establish contact with his lawyer, and pleaded with the court that he wouldn't be able to, as it were, defend himself or represent himself, and so prayed for leniency and an adjournment, to which the court obliged and the justice or the judge gave the adjournment. And so the case has been adjourned to October 30, Martin, for the continuation of this matter.
Right, Lord, thank you for that update. Let's now listen to Akyea, who is lawyer for the former Signals Bureau Director, Kwabena Dubahin.
In the court since 9 o'clock, as scheduled by the judge. We didn't see the face of the Attorney General. Other cases were being adjourned. We were waiting until all the cases were clear, giving an impression that, look, this case is what matters to the judge the most. Now, yesterday, I filed a motion for prohibition in the Supreme Court, saying that we are not comfortable that this judge will give us justice. I brought it to the attention of the judge. I also raised an issue that we should adjourn the case and abide the outcome of the application to the Supreme Court. The case is just next week in the Supreme Court. The judge is saying no, we won't grant us the adjournment, and that he is ready to continue the case. As to why the judge is in an ambulance route to continue the case and cannot wait for the Supreme Court for 1 week. The list match to be designed. And I'm caught between the rock and the hard place. How? The ambivalence that you want to disqualify a judge from hearing the case and you sitting to continue the case. I cannot answer in the Supreme Court, so I need to leave the chamber. And then, I leave him to do what he wants to do best. That's why I've left the court.
Are your clients not going to be?
Well, my client is there. I know he can't do any legal work for himself, but they should be glad that the lawyers are saying that they can't continue with the case. They could have also gone out of the court, but they are accused persons. Because they agree with me. But because they are accused persons, they can't get out of the court. That's why they are there. Because they are accused, but not that they endorse what the judge did.
If you go to the Supreme Court, we are not preempting, and the Supreme Court sends you back to the High Court, how will your approach be?
Well, let's leave it to the Supreme Court. I don't want to play clairvoyance, but I think we have a good case for the Supreme Court to consider. That's what we are doing. We don't know what the Supreme Court will do, and you don't want to play lottery with this very sensitive case.
But Counsel, regarding the decision by the judge, he cited two conflicting authorities and decisions by the Supreme Court, for which reason he used his discretion to refuse your application. How does that come to you, seeing that you chose to walk out when really he used discretion?
What discretion is on this matter, in which there is an old authority, the Supreme Court has departed from the authority. And the Supreme Court in 2020 is asserting that when there is a pending application for prohibition, and the lawyer tells the judge looking after the affairs of the case that, look, adjourn the case and let's wait for the Supreme Court to determine the matter. And if the judge should not do that, it implies that the judge is biased. If you see the Supreme Court decision and you don't want to respect it, I can't force him to obey the Supreme Court, which is at the summit of the justice delivery system. But I think we will have a day the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And so that is Akyea, who is lawyer for the former National Signals Bureau Director there. And the news is that they walked out of court today because they were asking for an adjournment, specifically because they thought that new evidence that had been tendered in was not in favor of the case that they were defending. And so when the judge declined, they decided to walk out, leaving the suspect alone before the judge. And, the suspect said that he could not defend himself. So the judge asked that he call his lawyer to come in and defend him. He says he's tried several times. He could not reach his lawyer or his legal counsel. So based on that, the judge decided to adjourn the case. So we'll definitely update you as to when the case will be recalled and see how it plays out. This is still 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition. And we are going on to our final story just before sports comes in. And you would know that the issue of Galamsey never seems...
Nana Konado since 1974. I remember myself and my former wife were both mates at Contempt School and at Akyea University as well. We had chat, discuss issues until I went to detention in 1977. And I was in detention until Akuffo removed Champon. And I then ended up with June 4th. And after June 4th, I've been meeting occasional. And I think the one key thing that she did for this nation is feminine affirmative, which she played a very key role in it. I must say, I remember a tour with some other ladies then to China, where that particular meeting took place. She has been a very influential person when her husband was in power, especially in the 80s for quite a long period. At the moment, I think all I can say is I wish her a very peaceful rest in the arms of the Lord. But you see, one thing is that what happened in 1979, June 4th, was not a joke. If you have been around or you've been a soldier before, what happened to officers, very senior officers, who were slaughtered, and a lot that took place. Now, you ask yourself a simple question. What role did she play? Well, I know definitely some decisions might come to her notice, but there's nothing, or there was nothing she could have done at that time. Well, after a while, the husband himself realized that when things are going really dangerous, so he has to put a stop to the killings. But one thing I will say, and say it again, the political class of this country should be very, very careful. I've been saying it all the time, because it appears as if the rank and file in the country are getting fed up with the political class. So Nana Konado said she will warn the political class that they should stop destroying this nation. They should stop stealing. People are stealing. Naked stealing. The government now in power must make sure that all those who have been caught stealing the country's money, their properties are confiscated, and that is an easy thing to do. It can be traced very easily.
Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo sharing a thought on how he remembers the former First Lady Nana Konado Agyeman-Rawlings and referenced the fact that the first time he met her was in 1974, and since then followed her progress through being a First Lady, etc., up until today, where news broke that she had taken her final breath. Another key individual who worked very close with the Rawlings family is former communications minister and diplomat, Dr. Ťrǒublě. Now, he's added his voice to the many tributes that are pouring in, and he talked about her and said her greatness has not been fully appreciated because of the political transitions that followed the Rawlings era. Let's listen to Dr. Ťrǒublě.
I think if the news is true, because until the family confirms it in a manner that some of us will accept it, we still take this to be unconfirmed, even though I believe the presidency has come out with a statement. It's an unexpected development, but all of us in our various families and lives have similar incidents where a close friend, a close relative may...
Key member of the NDC, what are you able to most reflect on?
There's a lot to reflect on, a lot to be said at the right time. But her greatness has not been fully appreciated, partly because of the circumstances in which NDC lost power and the unfortunate developments that took place after we lost power with her 31st December Women's Movement being investigated in a very unfriendly manner by the Akuffo government at the time. The fact that she had to go to court for many years, and even her late former husband, President Rawlings, also had to.
So that is Dr. Ťrǒublě, former minister under the Rawlings administration.
Be in court,
and
sometimes standing for many hours. It was a low moment in Ghana's democratic development. But NDC has won power and lost power, and we've seen at different times when the former president Rawlings was also alive, he tried to restrain himself with many of the negative things that are going on in our country, which were going on at the time he was alive. And I believe the former First Lady also was very mindful of those things. But as I said, the time will come for us to speak at length. So
Dr. Ťrǒublě, a very close friend of the Rawlingses, and was a former communications minister and also Ghana's ambassador to the U.S. at some point in time, and was talking about how he would also remember, or how he remembers, the former First Lady Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings. We will bring you the voices of some members of parliament, because following the news break about her demise, Parliament quickly adjourned sitting because of how sad the situation was. So quickly the Speaker at the time just asked that the House suspend for some time while they all try and take in the news of her passing. Following that, some members have also been speaking about how they will be remembering the former First Lady, and we'll try and bring you their thoughts and the specific issues they've been talking about regarding how they will be remembering her. But ahead of that, the presidency released a statement to formally announce to the country that they do know or have been informed about the passing of the former First Lady Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings. And I'm going to read verbatim what the statement says. It is signed by Felix Kwakye Ofosu, the Member of Parliament and also spokesperson to the President and Communications, the Minister in charge of Government Communication. Now, it says, passing of Mrs. Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings. Government announces with deep regret and profound sorrow the untimely passing of former First Lady and founder of the 31st December Women's Movement, Her Excellency Mrs. Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings. Mrs. Rawlings passed this morning after a short illness. Government extends its deepest condolence to her immediate family. Very short statement from the Office of the President, and it just tells you how the entire nation has been taken by surprise, or there is a certain grip of mourning around the country following this news. Let's go to the phone lines now. Dr. Kwesi Amachi is a senior lecturer at the Department of History and Political Science at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He's joined us for a quick chat about this news. Doc, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
What would your immediate thoughts be about Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings? I mean, as a student of politics, I'm sure that you must have followed very closely how Ghana's politics or political landscape shaped up, and what role would you say she played in that formation of our politics?
Once again, thanks for the opportunity. Actually, it came to me as a shock, and it's something you have difficulty dealing with. That is death. something you have difficulty dealing with, and especially when it's got to do with some such people, individuals who have played significant role in the nation's development. Akroma has been a rock, behind former President J. Rawlings, who I really credit with the Fourth Republic, the building of the Kenyan state in a way that has never happened. It's not for nothing that we speak of the Fourth Republic. There have been 3 previous efforts to get Ghana to work. It didn't work. And the only one that is working, the Fourth Republic, had to be put in place through human efforts. And Akroma Rawlings is one of the people who, like I said earlier on, has been a pillar behind the husband, giving him support, their tribulations, and eventually, when they were able to, come into power and establish the stability on the basis of which the Fourth Republic has been built. And that stability is with us. And so her demise comes, as a shock. I mean, you just don't know what to say. But
we ayan sama horo typical so channel so mamna so jemre e wahara sene so badi ndia dumbi edubenia e basamba urem ni asumu yipa ha e politics avenue.